Sir, good evening. Can you hear me? Sir, good evening. Can you hear me?
Good evening. I can hear you.
Yes,
Can you hear
sir.
me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you very well. And could you
Okay.
please switch on your video?
1 minute. Join video. Okay, here it is.
Yes, sir.
1 minute.
Yes, sir. We can see you.
Yes.
Yes, we can see you very
Can you
well.
hear
Thank you.
me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. We can see you. And,
Okay.
sir, if you could just, test with your presentation also, if you could please share your screen. Your
Okay, I'll share
presentation.
the screen. I'll share the screen. It has been disabled, like
No, sir. It's
you have to enable it. Yeah, it's been enabled now. And I'll open PowerPoint. I'll open this thing. There were a lot of problems in the morning showing the presentation, and after I was showing my presentation, I could not see myself on the screen.
Is it?
So I was,
Oh.
and none of the participants were visible to me.
So the participants haven't come as yet. They're yet
No,
to
no,
come.
morning,
Acha,
morning,
morning.
11 o'clock.
Oh, I see.
And none of the participants was okay. Now here, when I'm doing screen sharing, the screen is there, and I can move the slides. I was not able to
Yes.
move the slides only in the morning.
Oh, I see. I think this, I think Microsoft Teams, it was there. So they have some reservations. I mean, it's not that, open.
Because I was not having a licensed this thing also.
Oh.
So it may be.
Yes.
They gave me a link to download it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not licensed. So he told me, sir, you may not be able to use all the features. So I think that was one of the glitches. Okay, now what happens is, supposing I want to go back, so I say stop share, na?
Yes, you will stop sharing, and then we can only see you on the screen. Okay, this is it.
And okay, and this video always comes in this small size.
Yes, sir. When you're presenting your screen, it would come into a small size, but I can see you on my complete screen, as in you're visible on my screen, not in a small video short of a font. Only when you're.
But I can't see myself also.
Okay. Maybe you have to pinpoint on your. Participants will be able to see you on the full screen, and so would be your presentation. While you would be presenting your screen, your face would be in a more smaller version, and you could see it on a smaller window.
Okay.
So parallelly, both will be visible.
Okay, I got it.
Yes. Okay, just to brief you, sir, we have Sri Lagna here. She's an ISWBM MBA student, and she's interning with us. So she would begin the session with a brief introduction of your kind self, and then you would be taking on the entire session. And a small vote of thanks from her side again, and then fine, sir.
And how many participants are you expecting?
So we are expecting 40.
Okay, around about
40 people have registered with us. So a lot of them are still, sending me requests. So I have opened this, link to everybody.
Okay. And in the morning session, how many were there? Any idea?
So I have no clues. I wasn't there in the morning one, but I can definitely get back to you on this. As
there was a participant who asked me a question. He was a naval officer speaking from Uttar Pradesh.
Oh, I see.
And from different states, I could see that people were there logged in. Because in Zoom, you get the figures, how many participants, all those
Yes, yes, yes.
Microsoft, you don't get it.
It's very, very convenient with Zoom. Very, very convenient.
Yeah.
We have been doing like almost like we have completed almost 30 above sessions with Zoom online, and overall it's been a great experience with Zoom.
And Zoom, I believe, is terminating with China or something. Somebody was telling me.
No, sir. Actually, no. It's a fake news. It's not, because Zoom is based out of US. Only one of the co-founder is based out of China, but now he's based in US only. So that's why people have this, apprehensions in mind that this is a
because
Chinese
it was
app.
spread that it's a Chinese app. It's
No,
a Chinese
no,
app.
no. The co-founder is from the Chinese origin. So that is why this entire misconception is there. Otherwise, it's a US-based company. Even if when you type it on the website, it comes zoom.us. So it's a US-based company.
A morning talk was restricted to that organization only, no? American Tower.
Yes, 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 yes,
Their
yes, yes.
employees.
ATC.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now we have all across, as in people all across India from anywhere. I mean, multiple, genres and multiple fields they have registered with us. So we have a lot of them.
Oh, all right.
So we have participants coming in
Mm-hmm.
now. So we would start right at 4.
Yeah, slowly I believe they'll start joining. Actually, it's a odd time to join also. Shweta,
Yes, sir.
there is a provision to record which is showing here.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm recording the session, sir. I would give you the link.
It permits me
after
also
the
to record.
session gets over. Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, Sri Lagna. Good afternoon.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
All right. Okay, ma'am. Okay.
think we can not start now, sir.
We can
Can we
start?
start? Yes, it's already 4:01,
Okay, fine. We'll start.
right? We can start. Sri Lagna? Sri Lagna, can you hear me? Sri Lagna, can you hear me?
Absolutely, ma'am.
Yes, please begin.
All right. Hello. Very good afternoon to everybody present here today. And today, on India's 74th Independence Day, we welcome all of you to today's session on nation building. And we are extremely privileged to have with us today Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar with us. To give you a brief introduction about him, he is the recipient of the very prestigious Vishisht Seva Medal Award from the President of India, a former MGOC Central Command and arbitrator with Ministry of Defense. With his extremely rich background, his focus areas have primarily been on defense procurement, Make in India strategies, operational logistics, competing technologies, and defense security environment. So we heartily welcome you to today's session and we look forward to your valuable inputs. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Lagna. Good afternoon to everybody. And at the outset, let me wish all of you a very happy Independence Day. I'm grateful to Mr. Avijit Basu, who is heading this HRD chapter, for being kind enough to an invitation to me to speak to all of you today. And it has always been a pleasure for me to take out time from my schedule and be with the younger generation and share my experience with them. Today, we all heard the Prime Minister in the morning. And I would take out three important aspects of his speech. And I would like you to focus on those three aspects. And as we go along, you will find that my talk also would correlate to these aspects. The first aspect he spoke was on self-reliance. Atmanirbharta. And what is important here is that unless we are self-reliant, we cannot call ourselves a strong nation. Today, geopolitics of the world, if you have a look, you can only have a say if you are strong, if your military is strong, if your economy is strong. If you do not have these two pillars strong, you will have no opinion in the world today. So the first thing he spoke was on this. Second thing, he categorically stated of the expansionist tendencies of our neighbors. He spoke about China, he spoke about Pakistan, references to them. And he brought out that in tomorrow's world, there is no space for that kind of a mindset. You cannot have that kind of a mindset any longer. And the third thing he clearly mentioned was the youth have to come forward to contribute to the nation. And India is a young nation, as we all are aware. 75% and above population of the country is the youth. So he made a mention about NCC. 1 lakh vacancies being given to them to join the armed forces. I have been in NCC myself, I've been a group commander in the rank of a brigadier in Madhya Pradesh, Indore. And for 1 year, I was in NCC. And I had 18,000 NCC cadets with me. So I can gauge the pulse, and many of the NCC cadets are still in touch with me. So I could gauge the pulse that the Prime Minister has of the nation. And now I would move ahead and share my experiences with you on the topic of the day. I'll be making use of some slides because I'll be showing you certain maps and trying to orient yourself that how difficult it is for the armed forces to man the borders today. What are the challenges which our forces are facing in the current security situation of the world? As you can see on your screen, India is bounded by 6 countries, starting from the west, Pakistan border, 2,900 odd kilometers, Chinese border, 3,380 or 3,400 odd kilometers. We have the Nepalese border, Bhutanese, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. Total land borders are approximately 15,000 kilometers. And the peculiarities of this border, if you have a look, is tremendous. Starting from the west again, you have the international boundary, 3,300 kilometers, bordering predominantly are 2 states, Punjab and Rajasthan. Fencing is there in most of these areas now, but smuggling is rampant in these areas. Narcotics and all that is prevalent in these areas because it is not possible to guard the entire stretch at all times of the day. Moving ahead, we have the line of control, or LC as it is called, 740 kilometers in Jammu and Kashmir. We have infiltration because in mountains, you cannot build a fence everywhere. And there will be passes, there will be nalas, there will be gorges from where the infiltration can take place. And there is a lot of shelling also in these areas where the Pakistani resort to shelling and then try to do infiltration of these terrorist groups. Further north, we have the Siachen Glacier, where there is an actual ground position line between India and Pakistan. It's of about 110 kilometers. Coming to China, most of us are aware today, the LAC problem is there. In the Akshay-Chin area, Galwan and all these areas, Pakhonshu and all. And why it is so? Because Akshay-Chin is very strategic to China. And Daulat Beg Oldie road has come up, so it gives a fear to China that in times to come, India may have access to Akshay-Chin. And then we have the other part of the Chinese border in Arunachal, where it has been demarcated by a McMahon line, which China does not recognize. On the Nepal side, China is instigating Nepal. Lipu Lake was in the news, where India had built a road to Mansarovar, a shorter route for the pilgrims to go there. But that has been objected to now. But then we have the Bhutan, we have the Doklam there, where China forcibly entered Bhutan and occupied the Doklam Plateau with the intention of cutting the Siliguri corridor, chicken neck as it is called. Then we have Bangladesh and Myanmar. Both these areas are susceptible to refugee influx, the Rohingyas problem and things like that. To look after this entire gamut of this land borders, you can see for yourself it's not an easy job. And the agencies who have been entrusted to look after these borders are the Indian Army, the Border Security Force, the ITBP, the Special Frontier Force, the SSB, and the Assam Rifles. So you can imagine the level of coordination which would be required for the intelligence agencies also to pass on intelligence and coordinate it on ground. And it's a challenge by itself. Coming down south, we have our maritime boundaries, and let me caution you here. In times to come, this is going to be a very major security threat. And we have to understand this, the younger generation have to understand this, that how important it would be to actually guard the maritime boundaries. Today, there are 15 agencies looking after these maritime boundaries. There was a proposal to have a national maritime authority. It is still, the proposal is on paper, because the way the bureaucracy works in our country, you are all well aware. But now you see what the Prime Minister said today. The expansionist tendency of our neighbors, especially China. Look at the way China has been strategizing itself in the last 10 years. You will come to know yourself. Starting from the Horn of Africa, there is a place called Djibouti. China has a base there. They built the entire African nations, which are part of the Arabian Sea and here in the Gulf of Eden. China has become a money lender to them, because they are very poor countries. He has given them, he has financed their ports, he has developed the infrastructure, he has built their rail links, etc. So today these countries are in a debt trap. Okay, coming closer to us, Pakistan, let me make an announcement here, or a prophecy. In times to come will become a colony of China, because Pakistan has no money. Today, to pay its loan to Saudi Arabia, it has to take money from China. So Pakistan is in the clutches of China today. And we have Gwadar port there, which the Chinese are already there. Come to Sri Lanka. There is this Hambantota port in Colombo. You know, I have already been to Sri Lanka twice, and I have seen the Chinese working on this port. And a Sri Lankan army officer who was my student in the young officers course, he's a brigadier in the Sri Lankan army today. He was escorting me all around, and he was telling me, sir, can't help it. We don't have money. We don't have money to build our ports. We don't have money to do this. So China has been coming forward to give the money, and we have fallen into the trap now. Come to Bangladesh, you have Chittagong today. China has been expanding itself in Bangladesh, and India, I don't know how or why it could not prevail upon Bangladesh to stop the Chinese. Today, China is very strong in Bangladesh. So you see this entire string of pearls, as they call it. This is an oil shipping lane. All your oil routes are going to go through this. And in tomorrow's geopolitical world, who will control the sea? Who will control the ocean? Who will control the trade? Who will control the economy will be the king. And straight away moves to the Malacca Straits near Indonesia and onwards to the South China Sea. So you can see this entire strategy, what China has done. Our Indian Army, today we all must appreciate, and on this Independence Day, we must salute each soldier of armed forces. He is there on the border. He is there as shown on your screen. He is there in snow-clad mountains. He is there in the water doing amphibious operations. He is there in the deserts. He is there in the plains of Punjab, and he is there in the jungles of Jammu and Kashmir. So now you see this single entity called a soldier. He has been trained to operate in all these kind of terrains. And on top of it, the temperatures which range in these areas are from minus 35 degrees to plus 55 degrees. So he, as well as equipment, both have to function effectively in such a vast variation of temperature. Tomorrow's war, if we are talking about the threat to our sovereignty, tomorrow's war is not going to be the way it has been shown on the screen. It will not graduate from a tactical to an operational to a strategic level. These boundaries are going to be blurred. Straight away from the tactical level, you can straight away move on to the strategic level. And these wars are going to be very, very short and very intense. A maximum about 10 to 12 days and the war will be over. Whosoever is where in those 12 days is the winner. So you can imagine how technology will play a very important role in this warfare. And you all are in the industry today. You all are part of this technology. So my request to all of you, the younger generation, try to excel in your field of technology. Try to bring in the kind of technology which the country needs today. And if you will be able to do that, I'm telling you, your contribution would be as great as the contribution of the soldier on the border. The nation today trusts its Indian Army explicitly. You can have a look. This was a survey which was done by Azim Premji University, which brought out that 77% of the respondents voted having trust in their armed forces. 55 voted for Supreme Court, 48 voted for High Court, 40% voted for the Parliament and the state legislature. And the political parties, you're not finding it any place in this graph, was having a statistics of minus 1.7%. So you can imagine the trust of the people is there in our army today. And the army has always kept your trust. When we talk about nation building, it is very important for all of you to understand what nation building is. I have tried to take out the 6 most significant aspects of nation building. The first is the armed forces. The second is the economy. The third is the governance. Fourth is the development, which includes infrastructure. Fifth is the rule of law. And sixth is the human rights, that how freely people can move around in a country and express themselves. So I have given my weightage to the entire thing. The 2 strongest pillars of any nation are its military and its economy. You take the example of the United States. You take example of China itself. If these 2 countries can boast of a strong military and a strong economy, they are dictating the terms to the world today. Why India can't dictate its term to the world, you tell me? Because neither we have the strongest military, nor we have the strongest economy. Rest of the factors will actually fall in place. Because moment if you have these 2 strongest as your pillars, you don't have to worry about the other aspects. Because we are a democracy. Human rights will be fine with us. Rule of law will be there. A judicial system is already in place. And if your economy is good, automatically the infrastructure development will be there. And if you are a strong nation, that means your governance is also good, because there is no corruption in your government. Japan and India got its independence around the same time. And look where Japan is today. So we have to see these things entirely, and each one of you have to contribute. You all are pillars, actually. You all are pillars in nation building, and you all have a responsibility to contribute to the economy of the country. The Indian Army actually functions in a VUCA environment. The management people will understand it better. So what is VUCA environment? It's a volatile environment. It's an uncertain environment. It's a complex. Okay, I'll give you an example. 26/11 happened, and the Taj was attacked by the terrorists. A message was given to the NSG in Delhi to be prepared at 2 hours notice, and NSG was ready. Now, NSG was tasked that it has to fly to Mumbai, get operationally oriented in about 30 minutes and start the operation. Those guys had no idea about the layout of Taj Hotel. They did not know the topography. They did not know how the lifts are working and where are the lifts working and things like that. and it was a volatile situation. It was an uncertain situation. It was a complex situation. It was ambiguous because once they landed there, they were divided themselves into three teams. Normally, a unit of the energy does not get divided into three teams. But there was no option. 200 all people landed there, and each team was about 70-80 people, and so they got divided. And now for the team to actually enter inside was a big task. So you see the environment. You have a look at this environment now in which the Indian Army actually functions. Kargil happened. We all are aware about Kargil. I want to highlight this particular battle of Kargil and possibly bring out some of the lessons which the Indian Army gives, which can be understood by all of you and also adopted by all of you in your work spheres. This battle of point 5140 signifies this officer, Captain Vikram Batra. He was from a small village in Himachal Pradesh. He had his education in DAV College, Chandigarh, and he joined the 13th Battalion of the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. He was a company commander, and he was tasked for the capture of this point 5140. You can see it on your screen. This mountain or this feature has an incline of almost 80 degrees. And on top of the feature, you have the enemy who is well entrenched. See the mental toughness of this person. He did not shy away from his task. His men were watching him. He was leading from the front. He was taking a great personal risk. So these are the things of leadership which you all also must do in your daily routines. So one more example I will give you is of Wing Commander Abhinandan. Now you tell me, a 30-year-old plus aircraft, MiG-21, how can it take on the latest technological aircraft manufactured by the United States, F-16, which is held by Pakistan? What had happened? A guy, he was flying the MiG-21, which was the first generation aircraft, and he took on a third generation aircraft. Total avionics, technology, everything is far superior for the F-16. But the reason he could take on is he was one step ahead of this OODA law. Observe, orient, decide and act. In our lives every day, we are following this OODA law. We actually follow it in the army. And in army, we are taught you have to be one step ahead of this loop at all times. You have to outthink your enemy. Similarly, in your corporate sector, you have to outthink your adversary. You have to outthink your rival. You have to have a technology which can offer things better than him. And it has to be done in real time. It cannot be allowed to linger on and sort of procrastination and things like that. Another important aspect for the younger generation, most of them are going into depression. People are committing suicide. Why? So why this depression is actually hitting the younger generation so hard? And why can't they take it on? It all actually comes from your mental conditioning. When Abhinandan was captured, he was tortured. But he was trained to suffer this torture. It was ingrained in his mind. Pain is temporary, but quitting is forever. So this also you must take home as a lesson from here, that whatever setback you have had in life is only temporary. Let me tell you, when I was in the National Defense Academy, I had a medical issue and I was hospitalized for 2.5 months. And after that, I was relegated. I lost one semester and I joined with the 58th NDA course and I was relegated to the 59th NDA course. It was a setback, and it was a great setback because you have your own course mates in senior course, but you had to overcome that setback. And you had to overcome in such a manner that you show it to yourself and the world that it was temporary. So when I went for my young officers course, I got the silver medal there. And I had officers from the 58th as well as 59th course doing that course together. So what I am bringing out to you is that any setback you have in life, it is going to be temporary. Don't think it will be permanent. But if you quit, that will be permanent. So you all, the 4 ingredients or the 4 C's of mental toughness: control, commitment, challenge, and confidence. Just take this as your mantras. Make yourself mentally strong. You can do yoga, you can do meditation. Keep yourself physically fit, because unless you keep yourself physically fit, you cannot be mentally strong. So in the army, we have a psychological edge. Why we have the psychological edge? Because of our training, of the camaraderie. Because I know if something happens to me, someone will take care of me. We war game every situation. Every battle contingency is a war game, and situational exercises are done to train our minds. We focus on the core drills. We keep on repeating the drill again and again. And it actually gets into a muscle memory. It becomes, second nature to us. For example, if you play golf or you do swimming or cycling, once you have learned swimming, and if you swim after a gap of 10 years, you will continue to be swimming. You won't drown because it has gone into your muscle memory. It has gone into your system. So to make things go into your system, you have to repeat that thing again and again. And we have chaos all around us today. Corona. Okay. Now, how this chaos has been turned into an opportunity. Because of COVID, we have this webinar, we have this Zoom, we have this online education. The entire concept of each and every aspect has changed. We are saving a lot of money now. We don't have to hold seminars because now we are comfortable in speaking to each other on such apps. So the chaos has been turned into an opportunity. That is what life is all about. You have to convert that chaos around you into an opportunity. A word about the Indian Army soldier. Today, on our Independence Day, we dedicate this day to the Indian Army Jawan who is guarding the entire nation on its borders. He is standing tall and he is preventing the Chinese from getting into our country. Look at this words of Captain Manoj Kumar Pandey. It will actually inspire you. If death strikes before I prove my blood, I swear I will kill death. This young man, he could think like that. Because of his motivation, because of his training, and because of the love he had for his organization. 3 words, Naam, Namak, Nishan. So, whatever organization you are in, that organization has a name. Namak is what the organization is giving to you. It is giving you salary, taking care of your needs. And Nishan is that flag of that organization. So you can apply it to your country. You can apply it to any organization you are working. So if these 3 things are there very clear in your mind, let me assure you, you will endear yourself to any organization and no organization will want to leave you. Okay, we are in a human resource development era today. Human resource is the most vital of all resources. And from the Indian Army's lessons, what I learned in my life, in my 37 years in the Army and 4 years in my training from the National Defense Academy to the Indian Military Academy. So, for 41 years I have been in uniform. What I learned, I want to share with you. The first and the foremost is that we all are leaders. In the Army, you have a section commander who's a Havaldar. You have a platoon commander who's a JCO. You have a company commander who's a captain or a major. You have a battalion commander who's a colonel. And you have the brigade commander, div commander, like that. So everybody is a commander. And you are a team leader. You are a sub-team leader as far as you're concerned. And leadership is a contact sport. You have to lead from the front. Captain Vikram Batra led from the front. And that is why his team also followed him. The second thing which is taught to us is you have to train one level up. It means today I have to be training to become or occupy the chair of my next boss. Because a contingency may arise when I may be called upon to do so. It happens in the Army. When I went for my Defense Services Staff College course, I was a major. And in that course, you are trained to become battalion commanders or in the rank of colonel. You are trained how you will command a unit. So you have to understand that any organization which is worth its salt, it must train one level up. Thirdly is we follow the directive style of command in the army. You must know the higher commander's intent or the CEO's intent, what the CEO of the company wants. And after that, if any task is given to you, you must go about carrying the task, keeping the intent of the CEO in your mind. You must take your own decisions because army teaches you that. Today, if Captain Vikram Batra was going to capture 5140, in the rush of the battle, if he had to take a decision, he is not going to fall back on his battalion commander or his brigade commander. He is going to take the decision himself because he already knows the high commander's intent. The next is team building, and the most important aspect is you must accept responsibility for the failure as a team leader and credit the success to your team. The next is one step ahead of the OODA loop, which I have explained to you already, Abhinandan's case. So you have to be a step ahead. Improvisation and innovation. The example I gave you about Taj and 2611, when the NSG had to move inside Taj, it required covering fire. And the Taj hotel was facing the sea. So there was no building from where a covering fire could be given. So what they did was they made use of the fire cranes. Commandos got on top of the fire cranes and elevated it up to the third and fourth floor heights and started giving the covering fire to the team which was moving inside. So in your profession also, you have to improvise and innovate. If you don't do that, you will stagnate. Convert chaos into opportunity. I've already given you this example. We in the army, we plan for the worst case scenario because you must plan like that. If everything goes as per plan, that's the best thing to happen. But you have to plan for the worst case scenario, and that is where the contingency planning comes into play. So we have a plan A, we have a plan B, and we have a plan C. So if you are in the hotel industry, if you're organizing a marriage in the lawns and it's a sunny day and suddenly it starts raining, and if you don't have a plan B, then you're finished. So it is applicable to every stage, every walk of life. You have to have your entire contingency planning in place. And the last and the most important is empathy and camaraderie. You must understand your own people. When I was a commanding officer in the battalion, in my unit, I knew the name of I knew the first name of each of my Jawan. And I used to call him by his first name. You can imagine the kind of exuberance and happiness that Jawan will have if you address him, by his first name. He will feel that the commanding officer is like a god in a unit. He will feel this commanding officer, he knows my name. I'm just a Jawan. So in your own spheres, if your Safai Wala is there, is cleaning your office every day, in the morning, when he does a salam to you, you call him by your name and see the smile on his face. That is the impact of empathy and camaraderie. My actually message to all of you is, just finishing my talk now. I like these words of Dr. Kalam. All birds find shelter during a rain, but the eagle avoids rain by flying above the clouds. Problems are common, but attitude makes the difference. So, in life, what Lord Krishna said in Mahabharata, there are two choices in life: to accept the conditions as they exist, or to accept responsibility for changing them. Today, our Prime Minister wants all of you to accept responsibility for a better change, a better technology, a better system. And in case we have these systems in place, I can assure you things will be so smoother for the country. If we are looking ahead of taking the nation to where we want to take it, the contribution has to come from each one of you today. Each one of you has to contribute to make our nation stronger. And you have to take a pledge, and what better day than today that all of you take a pledge in your respective areas of influence and make a difference and make a change. A very happy Independence Day to all of you once again. May God bless you. My good wishes to each one of you and your families. God be with you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much for such an interesting and motivational session today, sir. May we continue to thrive and prosper as a nation and realize our respective responsibilities towards our country. And on that note, as we come to the end of the session, remembering all the soldiers who are protecting us every day, a very happy Independence Day to all of you. And thank you so much for your participation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lagna. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.